I want to start off with a quote that I saw, and I'm going to read it out so I don't totally botch it, but it's something that really resonated with me, and it will be about the topic of today's video. The quote goes, "I cannot say whether things will get better if we change. What I can say is that they must change if they are to get better." What's up, guys? My name is Jonathan. I am the host here at the Venue RX podcast. We're creating a bunch of different solo content based on our experiences in the last couple of years growing this business. I'm also the CEO and owner of a company called Common Sense Events. We are doing hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in wedding venue sales, specifically here in Southern California, and we are growing. And that's why we're making this channel, to document some of the best practices, some of the failures, some of the mistakes, and the personal growth journey as well that I have been on and our whole team has been on as we've been building this company. So I hope you are able to pick up some nuggets of value, and I would love to hear your feedback in the comments below. Also, if you haven't subscribed already, I would absolutely love if you did that. We're trying to grow this channel, and it would mean the world to me if you did that for us.
You're listening to the Venue RX podcast.
Today, we're going to be talking about change. And this is a topic that for some people is so fun, right? You know, change is the spice of life. You know, there's like this so much variety that really some people enjoy quite a lot. And then change also sounds very scary to other people. I think it does come down to a bit of a personality. Like, are you comfortable with risk? Are you comfortable with things constantly changing? You know, maybe your upbringing had something to do with that. If things were always changing, if you were always moving around, whatever the case may be. This topic of change, though, is extremely important in business because depending on where you start in business, whether you are a solopreneur and you just kind of start and it's just you and you're a photographer or a DJ or a wedding planner or even running a venue, or if you're starting with some funding, or if you're starting with a property that you inherited and you have a couple of family members who are working on this business with you, regardless of where you're starting, you will be in a very different place once you've learned some of the lessons and you have experienced business for any amount of time. So change is inevitable. And I think all of us, we have some direction that we want to go. It may not be really clear to all of us necessarily. I know there are times that I've struggled with clarity in my business journey, but we all know that we want to get into a better place than we are currently, right? And that's maybe why you're listening to this channel right now. You have the place that you are, you have the place that you want to be. So to get there, to move, you're going to have to change. Now, the bad part of this is that you have to change. You actually need to make a change in your life, and that's going to mean disrupting patterns that you've previously entertained, right? That's going to mean getting out of your comfort zone. That's going to mean doing things that you previously weren't willing to do because of a limiting belief or whatever the case may be. Some things that you've been telling yourself as far as like why you can't do stuff, whatever that is. That could be cold calling, that could be networking, that could be making content like this on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or wherever. But you're gonna have to go from your current state to go to your future state that is exciting and it has all of the stuff that you've dreamed for yourself. You are going to have to make that change. I want to share with you a personal story that was very difficult for me, but was forced the change in my life. 6 years ago now, I got a DUI. And I was actually driving down the road. I had a couple drinks after work and I pulled over to the side of the road because I was really tired and I was intoxicated. Unfortunately, it was a no parking zone and I was sleeping there. Cop knocks on the door and says, hey, driver's, license and registration. And at that point, smelled alcohol and said, okay, we're gonna take you in. And I got charged with a DUI. Now my blood alcohol level was so high, it was over 2.0. It was so high that they said you have a couple options here. You can either go on house arrest or you can actually do jail time. The jail time was shorter, the house arrest time was longer. The house arrest was the full thing with the ankle bracelet and the whole Neil Caffrey white collar sort of thing, and I chose that route. Even though the time was shorter, I had made a separate decision that was the catalyst for actually us doing over 6 figures in the time and basically tripling the amount of business that we had done. And I'm going to get to that in just a second, but I want to illustrate the change, how change actually positively affected me in this moment. So I go on house arrest. Part of house arrest is you have to write out every single thing that you're doing all day. And at that point, I was both running my company, Common Sense Events. We were a staffing company at that point, but then I was also working at a fine dining luxury restaurant and a bunch of other things. And I was one of the general managers there. So I ended up quitting that. I ended up going full force into my business. And what this program, what this driver's like DUI program required you to do was have daily and even in some cases hourly accountability. And so I still have on my phone a running list of all of the things I was doing. 2:57, walked outside, very, very, very detailed and minute stuff. What I started to realize after a couple days, I had an Xbox, I had my books, I had, some different things. But what I started to realize after a little while was, there's a lot of time here in the day. And at the time I was married, I had 2 sons, but my wife wasn't living with me. I had to complete the DUI sentence in San Diego. She was living at the time in Inland Empire. So we had this crazy weird split at the time. And what ended up happening was, because of the level of accountability that I had to have during that time period, as painful as it was, and as basic and as kind of I graded against that, it forced me to be accountable with my time. It was a huge change. I think we can all admit that, right? But it forced me to be accountable with my time. And out of that accountability, I was able to focus more on the things that I had been avoiding in my business. The sending emails, the following up with people, just that level of accountability and actually seeing that. And I'm going to maybe try to get a screen grab and put it on the screen for you guys. But the level of accountability for me forced me into looking at what I was doing on a daily basis, what I needed to do to get the results that I wanted. And lo and behold, it started happening. And within the 120 days that I was on house arrest, we had made over $120,000 just in that time period alone. Just in those 120 days, 4 months, we had made over $120,000. And that really kickstarted the business into growing into a company that employed almost 900 employees. And everything that we're doing today is really built off of the foundations that were set in those times. Why I'm sharing all this with you is, if you have some place that you want to be, I hope that you don't have to get a DUI or go through some big radical change for you to be inspired to make the change that you need to happen in your life. I hope that is not in the cards for you. And what I'm hoping is, by sharing this experience with you, you'll understand that, look, going from where you are right now to where you will be is going to require some different activities. It's going to require some different actions from you, and they may be tough and they may be uncomfortable. And you might have to do those for long enough time so that you finally see the result and see the fruit of these seeds of accountability, consistency, and discipline that you've been planting. I just want to hopefully encourage you and inspire you with that story, and tell you that, whether that's going to a networking meeting, whether that's making a reel, putting a video on TikTok, whether that is putting yourself out there, maybe cold calling people, whatever it is, you need to make that next step. You've got to do it to get to the next place. And that has happened so many different times in my life. And unfortunately for me, many of those times I was forced into it. Many of those times I hit a wall before making the change that I knew that I needed to make before that, just because I'm really thick-headed in so many different ways. I would have to literally run into the wall before I made the change that I needed to keep making the progress in my life. So if you're listening to this right now and you have a business, you have a change that you need to make. And a lot of times we know, by the way, I knew so many of the times that, hey, you probably should do something different, but I wouldn't listen to that quiet voice. So if you're listening to this right now, you have that quiet voice that's saying, hey, there's something a little bit different that you need to do. I encourage you, write that down so that you remember, and so that you can even come back to it and look, and then set a plan for yourself of how you're going to be consistent, how you're going to chip away at that goal, and just make the commitment to yourself. Don't let yourself down. Don't let me down, okay? So anyway, I hope this has been helpful, and I would absolutely love if you subscribed and left your comments. To be honest with me, I would love to just hear from you guys as far as if you've experienced this in your life, because for me, it was very real, and it was something that I think was really the catalyst towards creating the momentum that we have now. And as we continue to build, I know that change is going to continue to be inevitable, and it's going to continue to be uncomfortable, but it is going to continue to be the thing that we need to do and that we need to get used to in order to continue building this massive thing that we're working on. So anyway, I hope this has been a blessing, and we will see you guys in the next video.